take that after the mayor, because the mayor has limited time to be here, and since he was here admirably on time, I think we need in all of our interests to make the most of his time with us. Thank you very much for attending, James.
It's a pleasure. Could I just ask through Lucy, if people could turn their name cards towards me? I know
yes.
Almost all of you by first name, but I don't know all of you. So, and of course, the people behind you now definitely know who you are.
Thank you.
Yes, sorry.
So thank you very much for coming along. It's been quite a busy summer, but it's very helpful for us to ask some questions. We had some questions that I think you had advance notice of.
Yeah.
So if I start with those, and then we'll move on to the video questions. So Mike, most of the written questions were from you. So would you like to start with these?
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, James, for coming. First question is about the circumstances under which the Chief Executive, Martin Whiteley, left the combined authority. I wanted to know more about the process that happened, who was involved in it, and what advice was given, and can the advice be published?
Well, Martin resigned, so there was nothing more to say than that. There was no process to go through in advance of Martin resigning because Martin resigned. So the process was after Martin resigned, of course, not before.
Okay. So my second question really is that I understand there was a substantial severance payout, which would be unusual if somebody had resigned. Can you explain whether there was a severance payout?
Well, Mike, I'm no expert in the minutiae of detail of employment law, but of course every employer, every employee in the country has rights. And in the case of the Chief Executive, Martin offered to resign, he asked to resign, and then it became a legal agreement between his lawyers and those of the Combined Authority. So I think it's, as far as I'm aware, a pretty standard practice to come to an agreement on the terms at which the Chief Executive left. And that agreement was a legal agreement, and I listened to the advice of that agreement. Once those terms were agreed, we went on to discuss immediately through informal cabinet where to go next.
So if I can just come back on that one then, so are you saying that he was getting a severance payment in excess of his notice period?
No, I'm not suggesting that the figures are in excess or below excess, or I mean, as I said, I'm not sure the figure is in employment law. I acted on the advice that I was given by the lawyers that we were using at the time, and as far as I was aware, what it allowed us to do, Martin leaves officially at the end of September, and it allows us to immediately go to the market to get somebody in to replace him. So it was as far as I'm aware, as I said, on the advice that I was given, it was the best for both parties.
So can we have the amount that was?
Well, I don't have that amount, but I'm sure that through the legal department or the Scrutiny Committee, I'm sure that when it's appropriate that those figures can be released.
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. Coming on to the appointment of the joint chief executives, as both John Hill and Kim Sawyer started their work on 17th September, as I was informed by the Combined Authority e-brief, which was issued on the 14th of September. Why are the appointments coming to the Combined Authority board on Wednesday?
Well, what happened after Martin left is we had an informal cabinet meeting where everybody was informed of Martin's decision to resign, and we discussed the next steps, where we should be. Those discussions included the position that the Liberal Democrat and Labour group, as I'll call them, on the Combined Authority, and this was discussed in detail over a significant period of time and voted upon. And the view was that continuity of keeping of Kim's position, the experience that John has in looking at structure, and obviously having been a chief exec in Cambridgeshire since 2001, we felt as a combined authority board that the best option was to have the joint chief exec status of Kim Sawyer and John Hill, and to immediately go out to the market to get a advertised for a new chief executive. We didn't feel that, as a board, we didn't feel that it would be beneficial to go through the process, which would take at least 3 months, if not more, of getting an interim chief executive in, and then immediately go out to get a full-time chief executive in. We felt that that would mean too much treading water and not the best for the combined authority of people of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. So we had a democratic vote on that, and we erected on that vote, and of course it will come to board on the 26th.
Right, so are you saying it's a retrospective decision? Can you advise what date Kim and John started in this?
I think you just mentioned the 17th.
Yeah.
September was the official start date of this work, and of course sometimes you have to make decisions in advance of board meetings. There are decisions that have to be made. Sometimes decisions can be made by the mayor. Mm-hmm. Other times clearly we need board approval and board discussion. Mm-hmm. In this case that's exactly what we did.
Okay. I want to come on to the appointment of the Chief Finance Officer. Can you advise on the process for that?
Well, yes, I mean, the Chief Executive has delegated powers to appoint interim staff. Mm-hmm. And as you will be aware, we have used a number of people as interims over the period of time. I think I must just introduce Carl to you. This is Carl Fenwick, the Scrutiny Committee. And to my left is John Hill, another John Hill, who's not been employed for his name but for his exceptional abilities, and he is our business board director. So there you go. Scrutiny, John Hill, Carl Fenwick. Martin gave us the opportunity, the head of finance, the portfolio holder for finance and myself were in the room when Carl was interviewed along with another candidate. Mm-hmm. He didn't have to do that, but he gave us the opportunity to do that. And we talked to them and we decided, the three of us, that Carl was an excellent candidate, and therefore Carl was appointed. I don't think that the process is different to the process of appointing a permanent member of staff, but as far as I'm aware, Martin, as Chief Executive, followed all of the appropriate methods of appointment. Okay,
so I want to broaden out appointments a little bit, because your recruitment at the moment seems to be very focused on East Cambridgeshire. And my question to you is this, because this is where the main talent in the United Kingdom is. Can you explain why we've ended up with so many appointments from East Cambridgeshire?
Well, I'm sure Julie would back me up and say absolutely, but I think it's actually more a question of coincidence than anything else. The reality is, I didn't know Carl before he applied, and I didn't know where he lived. And he's not chosen on the basis of where he lives, but whether he can do the job. Mm-hmm. Paul Rains, absolutely, I knew. I had no idea who was applying for the post that he applied for. Mm-hmm. However, when I saw his CV, it was clear that Paul was somebody of an exceptional experience, who had worked at the very highest level of government and with the LGA, things that I were not aware of. So the fact that Paul happens to live in Island, I think I can't do it in ED.
I do.
Yeah, so I think it's utterly irrelevant, to be honest with you. It's whether they can do the job that matters.
Right, so it's a coincidence.
It could be no more than that.
Okay, fair enough. I just want to come on to something which is in the report around the role of the joint chief executives, so Kim and John. It says they're going to be conducting a review of the operation of the combined authority. Yeah. But it doesn't give any reason for this review. So my question is this an indication that the combined authority is failing And if not, what is the reason for the review?
Well,
And secondly, will this be an independent review? Because if it's serious, then surely we should have some independent people viewing what's happening. You know, we've got a whole range of people who could comment on that, including national bodies. Why is it not an independent review, which is what it seems to
I think,
suggest?
firstly, I don't think it's an indictment whether combined authority is failing or not. We've had outside audit exception, which makes it very clear that the combined authority is not failing in any way at all. But the chief executive has left, and I felt that it was important, and not just myself, the board were of the view that with the chief executive leaving, it was important to have a review of the structure of the combined authority, the way it's working, and whether or not we feel that it could be changed in any way. I think that this is the correct time to do so. It would be wrong not to. But as a board, we decided that the best way of doing so was in the way that I'd suggested, with the continuity of having Kim involved and with John's experience of running authorities and restructuring authorities. And they will report to the board, and the board will make their democratic decision from that report.
So is that going to frame the appointment of the new chief executive? I understand Kim and John are going to be in place until March at the latest.
Well, Kim and John will be in place until we get a new chief executive, and we all hope that that will be a successful but brief interview. Both Kim and John have made it very clear that they will not be applying for the role of chief executive. My view is that as I said, we discussed this as a board, and the democratic decision was to have Kim and John working together and conducting a review of the combined authority, as is the right thing to do at this particular juncture, I believe. Okay.
Thank you. The other person who had submitted some written questions, and I don't know whether you've seen these, James, was Councillor Goering.
Yeah.
You have?
I have seen them.
Yes. Excellent. So would you like to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I see that some answers were put down in writing, but I wanted to walk us through some of the questions I had, because I'm still not entirely clear. It doesn't match up with my understanding of employment law that if you resign a position, you get a substantive severance package. Normally, you get a substantive severance package when you get fired. So, you know, were there substantive disagreements between the mayor and the CEO before his departure?
No, his resignation, and then there was that the package, as is pretty much standard across the entire country. It's not an unusual situation.
Do you feel that the expectation of running both the LEP and the combined authority had an impact on his departure?
No, not as far as I'm aware. I think that I mean, I can't answer for the chief executive. I'm not the chief executive, and but I don't feel that had a particular in his decision making. I don't think it was particularly linked. No.
Okay. So, given this departure, who's then responsible for the management of the lab?
Well, we had John Hill here, who is the director with direct responsibility to the lab.
So he's going to be the chief executive of the lab?
No, he's the director with responsibility. Of course, we have the joint chief execs who have overall responsibility of the combined authority. And
so that sort of combined role will continue?
Yes. Yes, and it's not a complicated situation. The business board is part of the combined authority. The combined authority has a joint chief executive. And it has directors. The director responsible reports to the chief execs. It's a pretty standard situation.
Well, I don't regard it as a pretty standard situation.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a matter of opinion. I think it's a matter of good governance and good structure, but be that as it may.
Well, that's a matter of opinion, not a matter of fact.
No, if the chief executive left and there were elements of the lab governance and the combined authority governance not matching up, then it's a matter for all of us. It's not just a matter of opinion.
But it's your opinion. You're putting your opinion, Marcus, that's why the chief executive left. I don't believe that's why the chief executive left in any way.
Well, then tell us why he left.
Well, you're asking me specifically why he left around the business board. I can't speak for another person.
Did he give a reason for his leaving? Was he ill? Was he moving abroad?
I've made it very
Did you have a blazing row? Was there a reason?
Martin resigned.
Yeah, okay, so he gave us 3 weeks' notice, end of.
Well, Martin resigned. That's the situation.
No payoff because he breached his contract. Simple employment law.
Well, look,
in his contract.
I worked on the basis of advice from lawyers as we would in this situation. I'm not head of paid services. Martin's head of paid services. Therefore, I have to work with the advice of the lawyers, and the lawyers' advice was very clear, and the agreement was between Martin's legal team and ours.
So he didn't give him a reason for his resignation?
Well, his resignation letter has been seen by all of you, or the reasons for his leaving, and I'm not going to speculate any more on that. It's not my position to speculate on another person's decision.
So my next question is, there seems to be some confusion about the John Hills in the room, but the CEO, John Hill, will then have responsibility for the combined authority, for the lab, and for the East Cambs District Council. How will that partial CEO of all these 3 organizations manage conflict of interest, which are inevitably going to arise?
Well, I think that you're talking about a very, very experienced senior officer who has got an exemplar record. I think that John is more than capable of acting appropriately in his position, and clearly he's comfortable with that as well. So I don't think that there will be a conflict of interest. The combined authority, by the very nature of it being a combined authority, has used and continues to use officers from all around the county.
They seem to all be coming from East Cambs.
Well, no, that's fatuous, quite frankly. And,
what?
Well, that's a fatuous point of view. That's not a fact. The reality
That's not a fact.
Of course it's not a fact. The reality is that officers are used from around the county in certain scenarios. In this particular situation, the Chief Executive of East Cambs is working alongside Kim to deliver, to share the role of Chief Executive. But if we need officers, and you know that it's true that we do work with officers around the county, and so be it, and we do. So it's not, I don't think there's any conflict of interest whatsoever. The job of Chief Executive when he's with the combined authority is the combined authority, when he's at East Cambs is at East Cambs.
So there's also no sort of coincidence that East Cambs then gets a loan from the combined authority that's overseen at the same time.
Sorry, are you suggesting that the loan for East Cambs, which was a democratically voted position some 2-3 months ago?
No, I'm just giving an example of a conflict of interest that might arise.
Well, if you want me to answer your questions, Marcus, you have to stop talking when I talk. What you're suggesting is that a democratic position from the combined authority of a £40 million loan to develop social housing and market housing in East Cambs has got anything to do with the fact that John Hill is appointed as a joint chief executive 3 months later. I think that's a strong accusation that you've just put forward, and I think it's extraordinarily naive.
No. I tell you what is extraordinarily naive. It's to make us all here in the Scrutiny Committee think that it is mere coincidence that, all these appointments somehow center on Eastern Cambridgeshire. But be that as it may, I think it gives you a clear example of a future conflict of interest. And my question was, how are you going to manage this as the ultimate responsible person for all these shenanigans?
Well, I made it very... Shenanigans is a ridiculous point of view again. Again, I think, Marcus, what you're doing is putting a point of view rather than asking a question of any factual basis whatsoever. The reality is that I believe very strongly that the people we've got in place in the combined authority, in the interim positions, have got the ability to work appropriately from their positions. And it's not just my position that I believe that, it's also the vote of the combined authority board. What you're suggesting, I think, is, I'm very surprised at the things that you've just said, you said in public, because I think they're outrageous, quite frankly.
Marcus, can you wrap up your questions?
Yes. So, did any of the interim appointments or the departure, was at any stage the employment subcommittee involved?
Well, it's not a matter for the employment subcommittee, so no.
I always thought officers' appointments were, but we will maybe have time to discuss that, Chair. What consultation was held with board members regarding the departure of the chief executive?
Well,
in particular, the relation to timescales for his departure.
Well, I've just discussed all of that with Mike, so I don't need to repeat that.
Okay. What consultation was there with board members in relation to the arrangements covering the executive workloads, and in particular the sort of division of labour between the two officers in question?
Well, again, I think that's all been covered in the questions from Mike. I don't think there's any need to go over it again. I've very clearly answered those questions already.
Okay. You said there would be no potential for conflicts of interest. Nonetheless, have you made provisions to govern those?
I think what you're suggesting, and I hope this is being limited, I think it's extraordinary. What you're effectively saying is that somebody who's been appointed to a position in the combined authority cannot act in a responsible manner and oversee their position. And I think that accusation has no basis whatsoever in reality. I think it's, as I said, I'm shocked by the tone that you're taking. Well, I shouldn't be shocked because I know how you operate, but I think it's an extraordinary. I think it shows a lack of decorum on your part.
A lack of
decorum on your part.
Decorum. Yeah.
Thank you, Marcus. I've got a number of questions that have been raised by the answers, but I'll come back to those at the end and I'll pick up on people that they've been addressed. Chris, I think you were next on my list.
Oh, thank you. James, I am very well aware of your political history, and you always have been very careful about the spending of public money, and I very much welcome that. I personally have always been concerned around the country at the way in which there can be, I'll use a pejorative term, my apologies for doing so, a perceived gravy chain for certain senior officers when they leave sometimes very high cost, sometimes even to be reemployed by the same authority.